Hello and welcome to 11FS Spotlight. I'm Gwera Kiwana, and in this weekly show, we shine a spotlight on the best and the brightest in tech and financial services. So we try to understand what gets them going, growing, and what they think the future of the industry will look like. On today's Spotlight, I'm super delighted to be joined by Michael Vanaselja, CEO at Keebo. How are you doing today, Michael?
I'm great. Yeah, psyched to be here. Thanks for having me.
On today's show, we're going to talk about Michael's career and take a deep dive into how personalized credit is here to revolutionize banking. So let's get started. If you could give me a 1 minute elevator pitch for Keebo. Who is Keebo? What is Keebo?
Great. Yeah, so we're a new personalized credit card. We're here to help customers build their credit and smash their financial goals, really to help them live the lives they dream of. You may know, but like millions of people in the UK, but also globally, they're excluded from accessing credit. And I think this really affects young people, in particular, like freelancers, content creators, this new growing economy of creators in the passion economy, as well as expats, entrepreneurs, right? The list goes on. So what we're trying to do is help open up access to credit. And the way we do this is by looking at customers' spending history, the accounts that they link in addition to their credit score. And also really like helping them build their credit over time by showing them what actions actually help them on their journey. So we're the first credit card company authorized by the FCA to do this, really looking at this transactional data in addition to credit score. And we've won three technology grants from the government in building up our models.
Thanks for explaining that, Michael. So can you tell us a little bit about your role at Keebo?
Absolutely. So I'm the co-founder and CEO. I really lead the vision and strategy of the company. Recently, we closed a £5 million equity round that was backed by Briga and Connect Ventures. Really excited to have them on board. And right now, my day to day is really focusing on launch, but also recruitment. We're hiring talent. So yeah, busy time for us, but really exciting.
So, Michael, can you tell me a little bit about what led you to entering the personalized credit space? What is your journey up thus far?
Yeah, so not sure if you can tell by the accent, but I'm Canadian by background. I studied maths and philosophy in university back in Canada, came over here, studied law, and then I was a credit derivatives lawyer here in London for about 7 years. This opportunity really arose at my law firm to start looking at tech and innovation, but also AI, and really this had this opportunity to build products for some of the world's leading banks. I guess my claim to fame, if there is one, prior to Kibo, was building a credit risk negotiation tool, which is now being used by the derivatives industry. So if you're into capital markets and derivatives, pretty cool. If you're not, it's a little esoteric. But I was the head of product there, and I really got that kind of tech and product vibe. And once you have it, it's really hard to stop.
That's really cool. I mean, going from the institutional financial services space to entering retail and being super close to customers, what inspired you to make that jump?
Yeah, really good question. So I think, I'd spent the last 3 or 4 years really focusing on B2B products and seeing kind of the long sales cycles and so forth. And I guess one of the things that I was really craving at that time was like, how do I make a direct impact or difference into consumers' life? Like my career has really been spent around looking at credit risk, albeit, from a derivatives and capital markets context. But, a lot of the same principles and foundations apply to consumer credit risk. So, for me, it was really this opportunity about, how could we disrupt an industry and improve consumers' lives?
Yeah, I think definitely, it's a big calling to go and improve consumers' lives to really improve consumer outcomes. But let's look at the bigger picture of credit as well. So something that's always been notoriously way more complicated than it should be, and I think some people would like to keep it that way. But how is Kibo working to revolutionize the space?
Yeah. So you're right. I think people think that credit is complicated, and in a lot of respects, it's a bit of a black box, I think, for consumers, right? So people don't really know why a lender either accepts you or rejects you. And when you look at your credit score, well, what does it really mean? Like, how do these credit reference agencies build up that score? You can look online and they'll give you like very generic information. Join the electoral roll, don't forget to pay a bill, get a credit card, all of that stuff. But it's really, I don't think, very informative or helpful in terms of like practically what do I do to build up the score? Like practically, if I've
Yeah.
been denied, how do I get that? And I think our insight has really been around um, like let's not make this proprietary. Let's show the customer why their credit is building or not building. Like the whole focus of our app is really around this growth focus. The vision is, how every action or transaction you make on Keebo card or any other card that's linked to it will help you improve your credit and look at that financial growth. So I guess we're technically able to do it, whereas other people haven't because they haven't been relying on open banking, which gives them that real time access. And our insight has been to kind of democratize it and put customers in the driver's seat.
That's awesome. I mean, so you touched on you're technically able to do it, and that is enabled by open banking. So can you tell us a little bit about what is open banking for those who've never heard of it and probably been living under a rock? What is open banking, and how is Kibo leveraging that to help your customers?
Yeah. So open banking is really this concept around, consumers own their data, and that data could be financial data or it could be personal data. I think some people have heard of GDPR, right, in the kind of personal data space. And open banking is really about, if you bank at Barclays or any other bank, right, that bank doesn't own the transactional data, you do. And it really empowers customers to say, well, if I'm the owner of that data, I can take it to other institutions that can use it to effectively benefit me. So, how do we use it at Kibo? Right, we ask customers to link an account with us, at least one account, but it can be many, and we take that kind of spending behavior or information about their savings or how they use their money to really make an informed lending decision about them. I think a lot of our customer base are people that are what's called in the credit card industry thin file or don't have a credit score. And what lenders will do is if they don't have information to make a decision, they'll say, listen, I can't lend to you. So for us, open banking is really about looking at a new data set that's really specific and tailored to the individual to say, okay, I might not have information from the credit reference agencies, but I have a lot of information about how you use your money and how responsible you can be. And we'll make a lending decision on that basis.
So using open banking to create a holistic image of the customer that is even more nuanced, I guess, than what traditional credit bureaus or even not credit bureaus, but like other lenders might see as. Because I, for example, so if you cannot tell from the accent, I also moved to the UK from
Yeah.
Canada, and
Oh, cool.
I also have what's called a thin file. So I'm unable to
Yeah.
get, a lot of unable to get a lot of products like that, even as simple as an overdraft, a phone
Yeah.
contract. Like I have to get the most expensive phone contract because I'm being punished for not having a credit file. So I think tools like Kibo would be very useful to newcomers to the country, to young people, people who are looking to build their credit. So I also backtrack to talk about open banking. I'm really excited personally to see open banking move from the abstract space it's been in and the like nerdy like fintech circles that we've been talking about it in
Yeah.
into like real use cases, like real actual human impact use cases. So can you tell us a little bit about the kinds of customers you've spoken to uh, at Kibo and how open banking is going to change their lives? Like what data points are you looking at for them, and what stories have you heard?
Yeah. So in terms of like data points specifically, what we're trying to do is look at how people use their money, right? Like how stable is their income? What different sources of income are they coming from, right? A lot of young people have side hustles today. They don't necessarily want the standard kind of traditional job of, working for an employer. Effectively, they want to work for themselves, right? So those income sources and kind of frequency and stability is kind of what's key for us, as well as um, spending habits and behavior, right? Is this somebody that budgets and spends kind of responsibly, or is it quite varied and volatile? I think other things that are really important for us is say like digital subscriptions, things like Netflix, Spotify, iTunes, that sort of thing, because really that can be a proxy for, ability to repay on your credit. But then other things, and if people feel comfortable with it, is savings. I think there's a lot of people, and especially like freelancers, who go through periods of time of like, hey, I get a lot of money and then I put it into my savings, but then I travel for 3 or 6 months, right? So even though that income might not be coming in, having that cash reserve and that stability actually is a sign of financial health. So those are the types of data points. It's, as you said, like much more holistic, and kind of coming back to one of the things that we're trying to do in our vision is like making credit building really this proxy for financial health, because we can look at things much more broadly than just credit building in the traditional sense of you take out a debt, you repay your debts. And in terms of the customers that we've spoken to, I think the younger generation are, much more familiar with open banking. They've seen how it's grown over the last 5 years and is kind of now in this mature state. So a little bit of the reluctance or skepticism that people would have found, maybe 5 years ago isn't really as much of an issue today. So yeah, in terms of like feedback
Yeah.
we've got from people, they're like, listen, if it can help me, like let's use it.
That's great. Yeah, I think customer outcomes and customer experience is really what should drive a lot of products. And do you know who's very excited and keen on promoting good customer outcomes is the FCA. So the UK's
Yeah.
Financial Conduct Authority, the regulatory body. So they really have done a great job. They're very innovative, and internationally they're renowned as being really great at working with fintech. So Keebo is the first and only credit card company authorized by the FCA for open banking based underwriting. So, first of all, what does this mean? And second, why is this a huge, like, I think it's a huge deal. Please tell
Yeah.
our listeners, why is this a huge deal?
Yeah, so like as far as we're aware, yeah, like that's the case, and it is, to my mind as well, really exciting. I think why it's a big deal is because like open banking, like data, right, this transactional data hadn't been used to date really to make a lending decision. I think the use cases in the past has been really about like letting customers make payments differently, right, through those accounts, or aggregate their accounts and data, in a way that just like is helpful for them. But then actually to say, hey, I'm a lender and I want to rely on that information and data to make a decision, was like a pretty big step. So I think in terms of the technology advancing and maturing in such a way that like the accuracy and the data could be relied on, um, for those use cases, it took a little bit of time. And then, I think just with the FCA as well, it takes some time to really understand, as you're saying, like those customer outcomes. And, in the regulatory space is what's called like conduct risk. So on one hand, like when we presented our models and applications to the FCA, it's like you can focus on the underwriting and the power of it and the potential, but it really has to come back to like what are the risks for customers, and going through that journey with them to show them that like actually, with any kind of financial product, yes, there are risks, but our approach, we think, and don't want to put words in the FCA, but they, agreed enough to authorize us, was like actually there are significant benefits with this approach. So yeah, big deal, and yeah, we're really excited to have kind of worked with them through that process.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've heard great things about the FCA being really cool to work with, and I think it might also help with this shift that we're seeing of a generation that's growing skeptical of credit cards and opting instead for debit cards. Um, you know, seeing credit cards as something that offers like a short-term lending tool. Old school way of building credit. But like, which features of Kibo are most likely to resonate with millennials and Gen Z? Like, um, what features, or at least like what about Kibo's structure and operating model right now is going to resonate the most with the younger generation.
So I think with like a lot of people today, they're denied access to credit. So that ability to actually, get a credit card or a line of credit is really important for them. And the only avenues for customers today are like short-term loans, right? High cost short-term loans, which can be dangerous for them, or the whole buy now, pay later space. So in terms of the features that we think are really going to resonate for people. It's one, using that data that they have to get access to a more traditional credit card. But I think our growth focus is what really resonates. The fact that, yes, I can get access to cash today to, buy the things that I need, but that won't necessarily hurt me in the long run.
Hmm.
Actually, by building credit and focusing on my financial growth and financial health, that can help me to realize the life that I dream of in the future. So, yes, I think some people may have been skeptical about credit cards, but really the whole rise of kind of buy now, pay later is really showing the need and demand for young people in this space.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, buy now, pay later being as hard as it is, and also as dangerous as it is, dangerous in that we don't quite fully know the long-term effects of what this is going to look like on a generation.
Absolutely, and I think you may have known this, but the FCA came out with that Willard report kind of earlier in the year about now is the time to regulate it, and I think we definitely agree with that. I guess what we'd like to see is that happen a little bit quicker
Yeah.
than it is, because I think the danger for people is no longer about getting access. It's, well, if these kind of quasi loans or unregulated loans aren't reported to credit reference agencies and customers don't really know how to manage their debts and pay it off, there is no real focus on like the future and how they're going to repay these debts and how to kind of build credit and financial health over time. So for us, I think like what we're trying to do is redefine this concept of credit
Hmm.
building and making it more broad about financial health and well-being. I think the power of a credit card is it can give you access to cash and liquidity now, but it can also build your credit score for the future for the things you want.
Yeah.
And that's our vision. It's not just immediate, it's also longer term, and hence focusing on growth and credit building.
That's great. I think if I maybe you can share this with your marketing team, but I've got a tagline for you, which should be buy now, build now. So buy, you can buy the things now, but you can also through the
Yeah.
process build your credit score as well, and build your financial well-being life to be a lot better. So one of those things, tagline being as cool as it is, feel free to use it for free, definitely all yours.
Yeah.
But the other thing is,
Yeah.
is financial literacy. So there's all this talk about financial inclusion and financial literacy and making things easy and digestible for customers to understand. The reason buy now pay later has taken off is because it's just simple to understand. I mean, at least on its face, it's very simple to understand. Pay in X number of installments at 0% interest. Um, should financial well-being and literacy come hand in hand? Like, is Keebo capable, or even do you guys have plans really to do the financial well-being piece alongside the financial literacy piece?
Yeah, so I don't think they necessarily have to go hand in hand. We've done a lot of research on this, right? If you ask anybody, they're like, "Yes, I want to be more financially literate." And then, you give them a textbook or you ask them to read the FT, and like a lot of people don't want that, right? So I
Yeah.
think one of the features in our app is really about providing personalized content, and the
Hmm.
content that we're trying to show customers is really more of the narratives and life journeys that people have gone through in either building their credit or getting access, making it much more human and relatable. But in terms of like the financial well-being piece, I think our approach has really been to create consumer engagement and automation. And again, our growth focus with those points and levels is, every action or transaction you make with Keebo or any other linked account, right? You get points and you see how you're building. So by seeing those points and seeing the insights that we provide people, then they can engage with it and like learn from it in that way. So I think this is a much more interactive way of promoting financial literacy, but still being an advocate for it.
Right. It sounds like you're taking gamification a step further, and really just enabling like engagement, but also learning and stickiness also to the product. What other? Because one of the things I've read about Kibo is that you use behavioral science as well to continue with this idea of the holistic credit picture of a customer. What other
Yeah.
like what other kinds of uh, tools or even like frameworks have you used to in building Keebo or even mindsets?
Yeah, so I think you're right. Like the big one of the big innovations other than kind of open banking is that whole data science approach. Because when you're
Mhm.
looking at this massive amount of data from, different customer accounts, right? And the data we can get can go 3 years or 6 years. So actually puts you in this big data context of like understanding behavior, and like really we're just scratching the surface of it today. So Matt, my CTO, his background was actually big data and data science. He wrote a textbook on this. He's very passionate about personal finance and lending. So, that's a really exciting side for us of like, where we are today isn't where we are in the future, and the kind of the insights that we can provide people and helping them understand, the behaviors that will help them grow and build the quickest is really what we're trying to achieve. Yeah, if I could kind of sum up one of the USPs, it would be like the quickest way to build your credit and financial health. And, that's a long-term mission for us, but also an exciting one.
That's really cool. Yeah, and also having someone on the team who's a data nut is definitely a huge asset. So, um, full disclosure, I'm on the wait list. You're
Great.
set to launch it this month in October, I believe. Do you have any juicy announcements for us, or anything we should be looking forward to ahead of launch or post launch?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess some news is like we're already starting to onboard customers. We've been in a closed beta, and that's expanding. And as we, come up to launch in the next few weeks, we're going to start dropping invite codes on social. So for anybody, please join the wait list. But a great way to jump the queue, so to speak, will be follow us on Instagram and social media. So at Instagram, it's Get Keebo, and we're going to start pushing invites to it that way. So, yeah,
That's exciting. Yeah, I'm excited because, like I said earlier, like I'm what's called a thin file customer, despite having worked in the UK for a few years and having an actual job, and I'm still punished, but
yeah,
to have more expensive phone bills or not have access to an overdraft or various things. So I really, on a personal level, I'm very excited for Kibo to launch.
great.
So yeah, that's really cool. So as we're coming to the end of the show, I want to just wrap up by asking you a little bit more about Kibo and you as well. So first of all, where did the name for Kibo come from?
Good question. So it's kind of like a riff on two things. So one, my dog, her name is Keo. We couldn't get that name for trademark reasons and so forth. But another idea that I think kind of sums up our mission is this Japanese term called kakibo, which is really about savings and financial health. So kind of taking two things that I'm passionate about, my dog, but also this mission. Kind of Kibo is yeah, kind of a mix of the two.
That's really cool. Also, shout out to your dog.
Yeah.
That's great. I think you should have Keo on more promotional material. I think people love dogs. People love dogs, and they love saving, and they love building their financial wellness. So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to your younger self? Knowing all that you know now, you've started Kibo, you've worked, you've like studied and had such an interesting path to where you're at right now. What advice do you have to someone who's younger, who's potentially like at the beginning of this process?
Yeah. So I'd say be bold and follow your dreams in some ways. If I look at my career over the last, 10, 15 years, it's been safe. It's been corporate finance and big law. I wouldn't be where I am today without those experiences, right? They really teach you the kind of hard technical skills, but also the soft skills to build a financial institution. So, like, consumer credit isn't easy. Getting authorized
Yeah.
isn't easy. I wouldn't be where I am today without it. But I think there's really something to say about following your passions and your dreams and kind of creating this like authentic life and living your full potential. And I think really that's what we're trying to achieve with Kibo, obviously, with the consumers and helping them, you know, get the benefits of better credit to live the life that they want, but also the culture that we're trying to create and how we're trying to empower our team is really about like this is an opportunity for all of us, and we want people to get the most out of it.
That's great. That's yeah, be authentic, live your best true life. I love that. I think
Yeah,
we all need to take a little bit more risks in our lives, which I totally agree with.
yeah.
So just before we finish off, just what's next for Keebo post launch? What are you excited about? You don't have to give like specific details about features or anything, but what's next for Keebo?
Yeah, so obviously the big thing coming up is launch and kind of growing our customer base. And I think, year one for us is really about listening to our customers and like looking at our personalized credit, like how we're motivating people, how we're incentivizing them. Like I think one of the big things that I'm conscious about is like we have all this data and we don't want to inundate people with like too many insights. So this
Yeah,
kind of like psychological and emotive aspect to it is really key to us. We talk about financial health. A lot of it is mental health too, right?
yeah,
Like one of the big blockers I think for people on their financial journey is just like taboos around money and feelings around money. So I think that's one of the big aspects that we're going to be focusing on is just like the engagement of the customer, but also like how they feel during that credit building process. Um, Something, yeah, really important for me. And yeah, again, just kind of growing the team and looking for talent. So anybody out there that has, you know, that's on this mission and kind of likes what we're doing, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn.
awesome. All right, everybody. So we're coming to the end of the show. Thanks so much, Michael, for joining me. Where can people find out more about you and everything you're getting up to and your hiring page and your dogs? Does your dog have an Instagram?
Yeah, she doesn't have an Instagram. We had one for a bit, and then we felt like this wasn't this wasn't right. So yeah, find more information about us. Obviously, the website, join the wait list, and yeah, start following us on social. And yeah, get ready for kind of insights about the team and what we're up to, but also invites dropping.
I'm excited for the drops to happen. All right, so that's all we have time
Great.
for this week. Make sure you follow 11FS on LinkedIn and Twitter so you never miss an episode. And go visit the 11FS YouTube channel where you can catch up on previous episodes. Michael, thank you so much. And everyone, have
Thank
a
you.
lovely week. Thank you. Goodbye.